And we are going to begin just outside of the United Nations, where Bradley Blackburn is standing by. Bradley, good morning. What are we hearing from world leaders?
Anne-Marie, world leaders are strongly condemning this Russian invasion. Last night here at the United Nations, the Security Council held an emergency session, and it was happening as the first explosions were being reported in Ukraine. The Secretary General of the United Nations called on President Putin to bring his troops back to Russia. But on the ground in Ukraine, it is clear that a war is underway.
Russia's invasion of Ukraine is now underway. Explosions were seen and heard across the country overnight. Russian President Vladimir Putin announced the start of the offensive in a pre-dawn speech. Putin said the action was necessary to protect civilians and restore order. He said Russia's goals include the, quote, demilitarization and denazification of Ukraine. Putin called on the Ukrainian military to surrender and warned other nations not to interfere. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky appeared on television as the invasion got underway. He urged people not to panic and said he had just spoken with President Biden. The White House condemned what it called an unprovoked and unjustified attack by Russia.
Here at the United Nations, diplomats gathered for an emergency Security Council meeting. It's the Council's second emergency meeting this week on Ukraine.
We're here for one reason and one reason only: to ask Russia to stop.
During last night's session, the Ukrainian ambassador confronted his Russian counterpart.
There is no purgatory for war criminals. They go straight to hell, Ambassador.
The Security Council is expected to vote on a resolution against Russia today. However, it is unlikely to pass because, as a permanent council member, Russia holds veto power.
Ukraine has now cut off diplomatic relations with Russia, and it's important to note that the attacks in Ukraine are happening not just in the air and on the ground, but also cyber attacks targeting Ukrainian websites. That is just another part of this Russian offensive, Anne-Marie.
And that is something that has been going on for years in Ukraine. So in regards to the president's speech later on today, what more can you tell us about what we might be hearing from him and these, devastating sanctions that he's been threatening? Will we hear any more about that as well?
Well, we know that President Biden is meeting with members of the G7 and other world leaders today to discuss tougher sanctions. The first round of sanctions was announced earlier in the week, Anne-Marie, but this tougher round of sanctions could essentially cut Russia off from the Western financial system. And importantly, it would also introduce an export ban that would prevent Russia from buying American technology, high-tech components that are important for Russian private industry and also for the Russian military, Anne-Marie.
And in regards to this UN Security Council vote, what is going to be in the resolution? And you mentioned it's unlikely to pass because Russia has veto power. So then is this more about just making a statement?
Yes, it is all about diplomacy and making a statement, as you say, but it is virtually impossible that it would pass because Russia has veto power. They will try anyway, but there's another voice on the international stage that we should also be listening to that also has a seat on the Security Council: China. This morning, China is suggesting that Ukraine and Russia need to continue talks, but pointedly, they are also not criticizing the Russian invasion in the same way that other countries are around the world. And China has also opened the door to allowing Russia to sell wheat to China. China would import Russian wheat, and that conceivably, Anne-Marie, could weaken some of the Western sanctions.
Bradley, all of that is very interesting. Thank you so much.